Good evening, I'm Mitch Friedman, and welcome to Mind Over Matter TV, where we like to show you and teach you all different kinds of tools, modalities, and sometimes even tricks. That's right, for you to overcome all of the obstacles in your life and to feel better, and most importantly, to reach some of your personal goals. So we're going to do that tonight with a really good friend of mine, Beverly Neal-Clinton. So welcome to the show, Beverly.
Thank you so much, Mitch, for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad you could be on the show. I'm really excited about this. Beverly is a certified bars facilitator, and that may sound a little bit unique to some of you, but we're going to tell you everything all about that, and it's about access consciousness, and it's all really interesting and really wonderful. So thank you so much for joining the show. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Beverly.
Oh, Mitch. I've been a certified bars facilitator now a little over a year, but I think that I would be at an injustice if I didn't give you some background. Grew up in the South, Southern Baptist, hellfire and brimstone, so we can feel all of the luggage that comes along with that. And even as a child, I knew something quite wasn't cutting it with that hellfire and brimstone thing. There were just some things that didn't make sense. My husband and I actually moved to Australia, and I think that was the door that cracked open this spiritual being person that started showing up. Took my first Reiki class, had amazing results with energy healing, came back stateside, saw Dionne Warwick on television talking about that spiritual thing, but she's crazy.
Well, that's a pretty big step, just to go from the Southern Baptist to Reiki.
Oh, you know. yeah. Well, I was out of the country, so who was going to say anything?
Who's going to know, right?
Nobody's going to know. So, get back stateside. A long story made short, another woman who actually is my neighbor, literally, she lives 2 streets over, kept saying, you know, I got this thing I want to talk to you about. And I'm like, yeah, I'll get back with you. Thank God she was persistent. She kept pinging me, and the first tool that she gave me is one that I'll give the audience now. She said to me, okay, I'm just going to give you this one thing, and if it works, then, you know, we'll chat later. She said, okay, I want you to ask yourself, if you feel kind of yucky, just one quick question. Who does this belong to? Is it mine? Is it someone else's, or something else? She said, if it is heavy to you, that is not your stuff. You're carrying around someone else's stuff. Just simply say, exactly, you can start to exhale now. Just start to say, return to sender with 1,000-fold consciousness. She said, and if it feels light, then now you're back on track to being true to you. You're really in your space. And just go with that. Just try it. And so I thought, yeah, okay, fine. Click, hang the phone. Went on about my day, went to work. Some crazy wonky stuff was going on. I thought, well, who does that belong to? And then immediately it got light, and I was like, wasn't mine. Okay, how cool is that? Took one class, and now here I am feeling much lighter.
Well, I want to ask you a question, because we did a session, and I thought that was so brilliant when you asked me that. It changed everything that happened to me yesterday. But for you, what did that feel like when you said, well, is that mine or somebody else's, and you got it that it was somebody else's? What did that feel like in your body?
Access, well, what makes it so pragmatic, it's so quick. It's light or heavy. If it's light, then that's a truth for you. Example, audience. Think about this when I say this. If I say you're a short, fat pygmy, how does that feel?
Heavy.
Okay. If I say you're an infinite being, how does that feel? A little lighter, isn't it? Okay, that's your truth right there. It's light. It's always going to be true for you. Anything that's heavy, there's a truth somewhere that you've bought. Someone sold it, you bought it. So that's when you say, okay, so what would it take for me to return this to sender? Everything that doesn't allow that to show up, we destroy and uncreate it times a gazillion. We'll get into the clearing statement later. But that's where you start. You return things back that are not yours. And if you're watching this show at all, there's someone somewhere who's a bit intuitive. That's the only reason you'd be tuned into a show like this. And as a result of that, you've probably picked up on a lot of stuff that's not yours. Tool number 1, is it mine, someone, or something else's? If it's heavy, say return to sender. If it's light, say So what would it take to have more of this show up? You're asking what would it take to have more of you show up?
You know, I love how you say that, more of you, because when we were talking before we did my session today, you said, I believe you said 98% of how we show up isn't even us.
Absolutely. Yeah, that blew my mind. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Right.
As an infinite being, 98% of what you perceive is not yours. So think about having reached this point in your life and you've been functioning on 98% of somebody else's shit. Stuff.
Baggage.
Fill in the blank.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So what Access allows you to do is to operate and be more of you. When you ask the question, you get the response. That's truly who you are. So when I say, what would it take for more of this to show up? Now the energy shifts. I've got many more possibilities of what could show up. And, and this is the funny thing too. Emotions, feelings, and thoughts. Those are all the things that we pick up. And now think about this. I know this is going to wrap your mind. This is really going to warp your mind. But, you know, you're thinking that if I feel it, if I see it, it's mine.
Right.
Truth. It's not. 98% of it is not yours. So if you can actually separate what's yours and what's not, wouldn't that feel a hell of a lot lighter? And wouldn't you be having a whole lot more fun? And that's what it's about. As an infinite being, there's nothing that you can't do. The only person who's ever strong enough to stop you from doing anything will always be you. It won't be me. It won't be Mitch. It won't be the religion. It won't be your children. It won't be your bank account. It will only and always be you. So if you can have more of you show up, imagine how much more fun life would be.
Right.
As a result of your changing, everything else around you changes. And I think that's been the most phenomenal, incredible part.
Right.
That I know that I have changed a lot. What's been most amazing for me is to see the transformation of everyone else around me.
Right.
And that was not anything that I could have ever imagined. Access has this one thing that says, be you and change the world. I get that now, because you know, you hear certain things, you say them over, you say them over, you say them over. And then one day you wake up and you go, oh!
I get it!
I get it! And that's one of those things, that's one of those nuggets. When you allow more of you to show up, then you also allow more of other people to show up. There's no judgment, there's no drama, there's no trauma, because we're all just present.
Right.
And how much more, again, freeing is that? There's no pretense. It just is what it is. And when you can find what's yours and separate that, it just works.
Plus, you know, the word that keeps coming up for me right now is authentic. That when we get to be more authentic and self-expressed with, and a lot more than 2% of who we are,
yeah.
then of course it makes perfect sense that energetically people would, number one, want to be around you.
Yes.
You know, I always want to be around people
Yes.
who are more self-expressed
Yes.
and free and open and laugh a lot and just have a good time.
Yes. And I look at how much everyone around me has exponentially grown. And I again, can attribute that to my exponential growth. But did I think that was possible? I really did not get how when you allow yourself to be you, everything changes. Because, you know, we mirror, you know, the transfiguration. We mirror what we see. And when you see that person who is completely comfortable in this skin, then that's what you gravitate towards, because you're like, that's what I want. And so you become an invitation to change. Yes. So that's why I said I have the before Beverly Access and then the after Beverly Access. People are where they are because they choose to be there.
Right. So we keep talking about access.
Okay.
So what is access consciousness?
Access consciousness began about 20 years ago with a man by the name of Gary Douglas. And Gary's was saying, okay, look, at that time he was channeling, and so he started asking questions. You know, what more of a contribution could it be? What would my life look like if? And as a result of asking those questions, Access was born. He actually got a call to go and help a therapist, And this therapist, these 32 points on the head were actually channeled, and he was working with a therapist, and he saw where the points were supposed to go, and as a result of that, Access was born. Access is 32 different points on the head. And again, before Access, there was nothing like this. As a matter of fact, one of the points that's coming to mind, I don't know why so clearly now, was sadness and joy. It's the points right above the eye and then off to the temple. And now science has actually proven that those points really do affect those emotions, sadness and joy. Synchronicity. So these 32 different points on the head deal with sex, communication, money, creativity, control, time travel. And imagine, if you will, your head being a hard drive. You know, you've got those, it's been spinning, it's been writing, it's been going back and shifting. Got some clusters here. It's got all this information.
Virus.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're going to introduce that in a minute. But just imagine that your head is that hard drive, and not to mention, let's throw in a few trillion lifetimes that you've been writing to this hard drive. So it's got all this information. It knows all this stuff. Well, Access comes in and clears all that. We just rewrite it, reformat your hard drive, and we give you a clean slate. Exactly. You exhale a whole lot more. You laugh about stuff. And I know, I will tell you that 98% of where you were operating now shifts. You open yourself up to receive more of who you are. And as a result of that, your life begins to change in ways that are unimaginable. And things that you have held on to for a while now no longer impact you as much. There's not that charge. You actually are operating more in you. And Access really does allow you to be open to receive more of you. Because in this reality, we don't do us. Because you know, if you are, then you're selfish and you're damned and you're going to hell. How dare you think of you?
It's true.
You know, we are our greatest train wreck. That is the only time we allow ourselves to receive. When the shit hits the fan. So that's what this reality teaches, that we should not focus and think about what works for us. Access will allow you to, again, not only receive more of you, but actually be you. No pretenses. You are just allowing yourself to be, because truth, is there anyone else like you?
Absolutely not.
No one else can be the contribution that you could be. I can compliment you. You can compliment me. We can compliment each other.
Right.
But in order to be the change that this world needs, you have to be you. And all that is.
You know, again, what comes up for me, I like to call it your point of attraction. So when you're talking about, like, cleaning the slate and having new, like, oh wow, well now that I don't have to keep running those thoughts, ideas, pictures in my mind of what I accepted and decided about myself when I was 2, 3, 4 years old, or what somebody else sort of projected onto me, gave to me, so to speak, then who am I?
Yeah.
And once you get to see more of who you are, then your whole point of attraction changes, and now you're attracting to you and being attracted to all kinds of opportunities, situations, people, events.
Exactly.
It's unlimited, and it's blissful, and it's wonderful, and it's joyful, and it supports who you really are, you know?
When you were talking about the decisions, judgments, conclusions, we would add more and computation. So decisions, judgments, conclusions, and computations. You and I talked about this earlier. If you are in a hallway and you've got your answer, it's right there. It is that door, and by God, I'm going to get there because I've got my answer. Now, I've got doors to my left, to my right, 20, 30, 40 doors. But we are walking to the end of that because that's the one that we have. And as a result of walking to that door, because that's our answer, that is our decision, and we're gonna do everything to prove we're right. By God, we're not going to be looking over here. And for the judgment, I'm right, you're wrong. The conclusion, I know it's that door. Computation, I've already factored all this stuff into, that's the right door. So, I don't see all that other stuff, but I get to that door. Now, when I open that door, that is, of course, again, my choice. However, had I just taken the time to go through any of those other doors that I passed, how many other choices could I have made as a result of that? Exhaling. Exhaling. Exactly.
Just unlimited possibilities.
Unlimited possibilities.